get my 6. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the internet that has nothing to do with homesteading off the grid. Welcome back for another beautiful October evening, quickly becoming an October night. Welcome back for some more spooky Halloween flavored stories. So tonight, I'm going to read you 3 more submitted by viewers, this time from True Hauntings Volume 3. It's the world's longest title. I'll explain it here in a minute. True Hauntings Volume 3. Sorry, I just had dinner. I'm a little gassy. Dearly made some delicious chicken adobo and lumpia. Oh my gosh. My mouth waters just thinking about it, and I've eaten so much I couldn't fit any more food in my belly right now. Personal stories of real experiences with the paranormal, supernatural, cryptids, aliens, and UFOs. Folks, yeah, I mean, that's what it's about, but it's also about keywords in Google searches. Hey, I might be a hillbilly, but I ain't a dumb one. I know how to rank at the top of Google searches when people are looking for anything along these lines. All right, let's get to it. As the world's greatest cook / chef, whatever, and cutest too, the most adorable, my beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, would say, let's get started. All right, do we have a name with this one? No, it's anonymous. That's okay, folks, and that's perfect, because there are a lot of educated professionals out there who would be laughed out of their careers or recommended for a psych eval if people knew that they claimed to have had these experiences. So if you want to submit your story to us, but you don't want anybody to know who you are, just request to be kept anonymous, and I give you my word, we'll keep you anonymous. You can submit your story to the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com, crazylake@mail.com. We're already putting stories together for volume 5 of this series because they've been coming in through October. So get it in time, you'll be in volume 5, okay? And these are all available on Amazon and print and Kindle. A stranger saw what others couldn't. Submitted anonymously. Hi, Kevin. Just a quick email to share a short story. Please keep me anonymous. Daggone lumpia. I don't really believe in ghosts and stuff like that, but I do believe there are things in this world that we cannot explain, especially in regard to some of the abilities we so-called mere mortals possess. I never actually believed in this until I met a stranger a few years back that opened my eyes to strange possibilities. I was working as a postal clerk at the time, and on a particularly busy day, I'd been dealing with a woman at the counter. I can't even remember what her issue was, but as she was leaving, she said, I know you're busy and I don't want to burden you, but I'm a medium and I can see things others can't. You have an attachment, and if you ever want a free reading, I wouldn't mind giving you one. As she finished speaking, she handed me a business card, and I thought, yeah, right, a charlatan out drumming up business. Thinking I would only be flattering her, I said, an attachment? What's that? What do you see? What she said next almost had me clocking out early and going home sick for the rest of the day. I actually did have to go sit down in the break room for about 10 minutes afterward. She said, you have a little bird sitting on your shoulder, a very small bird. I'm not sure, but it might be yellow. I keep hearing the word butter, over and over. I stood looking at her and saying nothing. She smiled faintly and said, give me a call sometime. Kevin, when I was a kid, we had a little green parakeet. Though it was green, we named it Butter, because the first time we let it out of its cage to spread its wings and fly around the house, it landed in a stick of butter that was sitting in an uncovered butter dish on our kitchen counter. I was in grade school when we had Butter, and he was only with us for a couple of years before my sister's cat got him, but whenever we'd let Butter out of his cage, he would always perch on my shoulder. I was the only one in the family he would do this with. I love your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid, even though it has nothing to do with homesteading. I think ghost stories are more enjoyable than gardening anyway. Best wishes, Anonymous. I know I've read that story on this channel before. This might actually be the 3rd time I read it on this channel, because that's a great story. And you know how Mark Twain says that fiction is harder to write than nonfiction because fiction at least has to be believable. That is like the best piece that could be. Well, I mean, I know it's true. I'm not doubting the woman's, story. Wow, just an incredible story. Moving on. It's a girl not. Submitted anonymously. See? So if you don't want recommended for a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs exam, just send us your story anonymously. crazylake@mail.com. That's the email address. Dear Crazy Lake, I love your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid. You've done something really amazing building the most popular homesteading channel on YouTube that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Too few people can appreciate the monumental accomplishment that is, but I do, so kudos. I know, right? I mean, I could have made this channel about peanuts and cotton candy and never had anything to do with either. And it's just like, do you not get what's involved with doing something like that, brah? Whatever. Don't want to pat myself on the back too much. I'm going to start a channel about sock collections tomorrow. And we will never, ever discuss or show socks on that channel. And it'll go to #1 in that genre. You watch. All right. I have a quick story for you, though I don't know where it would land on the paranormal, supernatural / all things spectrum, all things weird spectrum. I'll simply tell you the story, then let you figure it out for me. Years ago, and only briefly, I smoked cigarettes. I'd taken it up during a particularly stressful time in my life. Once the stressful situation I've been going through was resolved, I found myself with another, trying to quit an addiction. I did the same thing. I've been a runner and endurance athlete my whole life, but I started smoking cigarettes in Iraq. I was amazed at how difficult it was to get off of that. I've quit like pretty much everything at one time or another. Stopping smoking was the hardest thing as far as a substance abuse addiction went that I've ever done. I mean, it was, don't start, folks. And that vaping crap, I'm telling you, it's not been here long enough to know the numbers yet, but I'm telling you, that's going to end up being more disastrous than smoking. Don't take that crap up either, man. It's not natural to put anything other than air in your lungs, okay? All right. Well, except some, you know what I'm getting at, right? Just saying, and it's legal in my state, brah. No, I don't do that, and it's not that I'm opposed to it. I don't want anything in my lungs, you know what I mean? But I like the fact that that's now being legalized after so long. Yeah, and I probably just lost 1,000 subscribers, but I don't care. Stupid. All right. Anyway, I was standing outside of a restaurant one morning smoking a cigarette, having just had breakfast with a couple of girlfriends before heading off to work. They'd already gotten in their cars to leave. I was approached by a little old lady. She had actually been walking on the other side of the street, and she crossed the street to approach me. "You are not supposed to smoke when you're pregnant," she said. "I'm not pregnant," I said. "Yes, you are," she said. "It's a girl." She gave me a very shameful look, shook her head in disapproval, and then crossed back to the other side of the street and went on her merry way. The following month, I missed my period. I took a pregnancy test and found out that I was pregnant. I would end up giving birth to my son, who is now in his 20s. But Kevin, here's the weird part. The stressful event I'd been going through that got me smoking in the first place was a near divorce. My husband desperately wanted children, and I was ambivalent about it, but I was trying, but I simply was not getting pregnant. My husband continually accused me of secretly taking birth control, which I was not, and the entire situation nearly caused us to get a divorce. We'd actually separated, lived apart for 3 months. Now, here's the weirdest part of all. All through my pregnancy, the doctor told me, and even according to the ultrasounds, I was going to have a girl. My husband and I worked through our problems, and we're still together all these years later. We never had any more children, though we did try. When we didn't succeed, my husband believed me fully, and we never had any more issues related to fertility. Our son is perfectly healthy and recently graduated from college. He's proving to be one of the leaders of his generation as he actually has a good paying job, a career actually, and he does not live at home with us, though he'd always be welcome to do so. Oh, and after finding out I was pregnant, I never smoked again. Take care and say hello to your giggly wife and your handsome son. Anonymous. Well, that sure is an interesting story, huh? And just to clarify, the point that probably cost me 1,000 subscribers, and I don't care, just don't let the gate hit you where the good Lord splits you on your way out. It never made sense to me why anybody over 21 could go buy a case of beer, get crap-faced drunk, and wrap their car around a telephone pole, or worse, go head straight into a van filled with a family and kill everybody. And that's okay, but people couldn't get high and eat a couple Twinkies and pass out. It just made no sense to me. So fortunately, half the states are starting to make sense, and the money they're raking in through taxation and regulation is going to pay off their deficits. Everybody else needs to join the 21st century. All right. So I got one more story for you. And again, I don't do that. I don't. And it's not my thing, but the ridiculousness of some of the laws, I'll tell you. How many times does some drunk bastard drink a bottle of Jack Daniels and beat up his family? Happens often, right? How often do people toke up and beat up their family? Never. Jeez, come on. All right. Final story for tonight. It's called Lucky Numbers. We do have a name here, submitted by Angie Corbin. All right. Hi, Kevin. I've been watching your show on YouTube since way back when you actually used to make homesteading videos. I found your channel when I was looking for a video to show me how to load my staple gun, of all things, and I found yours. Out of curiosity, I checked out the rest of your channel, and I found it to be quite the enjoyable hodgepodge of just about everything. Well, except homesteading. It seems you've moved away from that, but it's easy to see why you have the most popular homesteading channel on YouTube that has nothing to do with homesteading now, since you're so much more than a one-trick pony. Anyone who can't appreciate that is one-dimensional, in my opinion, and you shouldn't lose a moment's peace thinking about them. I don't. And I'm starting that sock collection channel, brah. Anyway, I love listening to your stories of the macabre. I've always enjoyed such stories, and I always viewed them as merely entertainment. What-if scenarios to make your spine tingle, so to say. However, I had an experience more than 20 years ago that changed my mind about all of that. Let's just say it made me a true believer in the possibility of all things strange and unexplainable. During my final semester of college, I was working the overnight shift in a small convenience store in a small college town. It sucked. I hated that job, and it made me miserable, as you would say, but I needed it. My parents made too much money for me to qualify for grants, but they didn't help pay for my college. They had more kids than they could afford to care for, really, other than just providing for the bare necessities required to avoid having CPS called in. So I had to take out student loans, and I had to work 20 hours per week the entire time I was in college. It took me 5 years to graduate because of this, but I finally did, and my education and degree has allowed me to live much more comfortably since. I can relate. Similar situation. I worked 20 hours a week all the way through college. Took me 6 years to graduate. Parents made way too much money to get grants, but wouldn't help pay for anything, so I had to take out student loans. Back then, I used to get so pissed off when people would tell me that what I was doing was building character. Now that I'm a month away from turning 50, I have to say that those people are right. I look around me as I see my peers who cannot get through this world without continual, constant help from their aged parents and in-laws, while what I have is paid for through the efforts of myself and my beautiful bride dearly, our family. What we have, we got on our own, and I take pride in that. I don't have to cry to an 80-year-old parent or in-law to ask for money because I didn't make enough money this month to pay my bills. Our cup runneth over, and it's by way of our doing. So I'm sure submitter of the story, and if you're a younger person going through the same situation, you hang in there, you keep your head up, and while your peers now in your 20s and even in your 30s look at you and say how sorry they feel for you that you don't have anybody to help you, hey, you look at them when you're 50 and you don't need anybody to help you, and they're still groveling like little teenagers to their parents and in-laws because they suck. Okay? Life's a marathon, not a sprint. You just hang in there, okay? Anyway, there was this little middle-aged woman that would come into the store every morning just before 6 a.m. That's when I got off and would go home and eat something and then make it to my 8 o'clock class. This woman's name was Sarah, and she always bought one thing and at times two things. The one thing she always bought was a cup of coffee that had been in the pot since my shift started the night before at 10 p.m. I would point out to her that I'd made a fresh pot within the hour, but she insisted on drinking the old stale coffee, and she pleaded with me not to throw it out. Save it just for her. Anyway, she always brought something with her. It was in powder form, and she kept it rolled up in a napkin in her jacket pocket. She would pour this into the bottom of her styrofoam cup and then pour the coffee on top of it, allowing it to mix. I always just assumed it was some sort of sweetener, but I have reason to believe it might have been something altogether different. A few minutes after taking her first drink of coffee, she would kind of zone out, like she was in a daze, but it didn't last long, only about 10 seconds, and then she would make her way to the plastic cases of lottery tickets. The store I worked in sold about 20 different kinds. She would put the end of the index finger of whichever hand she wasn't holding her coffee mug with, and she would say, nope, 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 yes, nope, yes, and she went down the line. And then she would leave the store and tell me she would see me tomorrow. Each day she would come in and do this, and each day I thought she was crazy. However, after about a couple of weeks, I decided to try something. One night, while working my boring shift, during which maybe 3 or 4 people would come in all night, I made a diagram on a piece of paper. I drew boxes representing each different lottery ticket we offered. The following morning, when Sarah came into the store for her stale coffee and to perform her strange ritual, I put a check mark in the boxes that she'd said yes to as she tapped the plastic ticket cases. As usual, when she was finished, she told me she'd see me tomorrow, and then she left. There were a couple of people that would always buy lottery tickets just before I left my shift. One was a middle-aged woman on her way to work, and one was a middle-aged man on his way home from work. The first morning I'd made my diagram, I recommended each of them buy a ticket from the bin that Sarah had said yes to. The woman refused, and as usual, she pissed away either her hard-earned money or someone else's who'd given it to her on a bad ticket. The man said, why not? And he bought one of the tickets Sarah had said yes to and won $5. You must be lucky, he said when he'd won. Try this one, I said, tapping another box Sarah had said yes to, and he won $20. Holy shit, he said. What next? There was only one other box Sarah had said yes to, and I told him to buy one from that box. He won $5. He wanted to keep playing, but I told him that all the others were probably losers. He didn't believe me, and like everyone who plays the lottery and other forms of gambling games, he kept playing and he eventually lost all of his money. He didn't seem to care. He said, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and then he left. I watched Sarah do this morning after morning the entire time I had that job. When that guy who'd won upon my suggestions that were not so random came back in and asked me to make more suggestions, I intentionally suggested the tickets Sarah had said nope to because I didn't want to somehow get myself into something I couldn't get out of. After the guy lost on my suggestions 2 mornings straight, he stopped asking for them. I never made any more suggestions, but I will point out that I paid attention to when people would buy from the cases that Sarah had said yes to, they always won. I never saw anyone win big money, but they did win something. On my last day on that job, I asked Sarah why she never bought any lottery tickets. Her answer gave me shivers. She said, because I don't want to lose it. Thinking I might have misheard her, I said, you mean you don't want to lose your money? That's not what I said, she said, looking me straight in the eyes, and her eyes were clear as a bell, and I could tell there was nothing crazy about her. I don't want to lose it, she said, enunciating the word at the end. What do you mean it? I asked, playing dumb. I think you know exactly what I mean, she said, and then she smiled, and then she left. I went to that store for incidental odds and ends from time to time for the remaining month I lived in that small college town before graduating. I never saw Sarah again. There was no way that it was merely coincidence that she knew which tickets were winners. I have tried to figure out throughout the years if she was psychic or if there was something magical about whatever it was she mixed in with her stale coffee each morning, or if she was ever even there at all. I know one thing, however, and that is that there is something really strange, or there is some really strange stuff in this world that cannot be explained, and people who don't even give it a second's worth of consideration are the most closed-minded fools among us. Give my best to your beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and your handsome son, and I hope your family has a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. Angie Corbin, Strongsville, Ohio. So she must have submitted this right before Christmas. Well, there were 3 really fascinating stories submitted by viewers. If you have a fascinating story that you would like shared on this, I'll share it on the Socks channel. I'll hold it until I get the Socks collection channel up and running if you want me to, because it's going to be the most awesomest socks collection channel on the internet, even though we are never even going to talk about socks or show socks ever. But I'll show this sock. Look. What's that? Oh, look. It says you are doing okay. I think you are. Oh, you are looking at. All right, I got to show you the other one too. This is relevant, and I hadn't planned this when I start talking about socks. Oh God, I'm so inflexible. The world's best brother. All right, my big sister sent me these socks sometime back, and I never thanked her. I'm such an ungrateful curd. So I'm thanking her now in this video. Thanks, sis, and happy belated birthday. I told her on her birthday. It was a couple weeks ago, whatever. It was sometime in October. So anyway, dang, maybe I've already started that channel. I just don't know it. Hope you enjoyed the stories. Give us yours at crazylake@mail.com. crazylake@mail.com. See you for more next time.